Hello and welcome back to Schoolscape Solar Week series. We're so excited to have everyone here live. There's a chat bar. If you are the first time to a Schoolscape event, very big welcome. I'm Ashley Fillion and I'm one of the presenters here at Schoolscape. And today we are focusing again on solar. So we're really excited about this event. After our first day on Monday, if you missed that, we focused on all the benefits of solar. We really unpacked the nitty-gritty things for your schools to know. So if you missed that, there you would have got an on-demand link. It is there for you to watch the replay. Please catch up there. But we had almost 30 questions come through. So lots of wondering, lots of questions around solar. It's so great. We love the interactiveness of these webinars. So please post who you are in the chat, where you're from, how far you are in your solar journey. If you have questions, you can put those in the questions tab or in the chat tab. It might be easier for us to find in the questions tab, but we will also keep an eye on the chat tab. Today, we have a jam-packed, very exciting schedule. We're so excited about what we're going to look at today. I think that you would know that the whole idea of today is to look at financial models around solar. But the reality is that as I started to explore this with different companies around solar, I realized that for our schools and for Schoolscape schools, this is something that's really attainable to most schools, almost every school, because of the kind of financial models that they have developed around this. So today we're going to unpack those, and I won't get ahead of myself with the excitement of how just attainable this is for most schools. If you're already paying an electricity bill, you can be excited about that going down with solar. So this is a wonderful way to venture into actually saving as a school. So we are going to kick off our event today with Abe Campbell. He's the founder and CEO of a company called the Sun Exchange. Now, the Sun Exchange is, I think, one of the only solar companies I've come across that has done as many schools solar in South Africa as they have. I think the majority of their projects have actually been solar. So this is amazing. They have serviced some of the biggest and the best schools in the country, and the feedback has been phenomenal from the schools. So this is exciting to have them here today. And they have a very unique financing model that they are going to share with us a bit later. But they're also going to introduce all financing models. So if your school is thinking about solar, you have no idea where the money is going to come from, I'm hoping that by the end of this, you will have a very good idea where that is going to come from. Great. We are also afterwards going to be hearing from Cape Town High School, from Emilton Klutter, an amazing man with such a passion for education, but also passion for the environment. And you're going to hear a lot of good things about what they've done as a school, so you can look forward to that. But let's kick it off. Abe, if you want to join me on stage, and Abe is going to then really, as an industry expert, having been in the sector and solar sector for years and years, going to walk us through all we need to know about how to get solar into your school. Hi, Abe, welcome to Schoolscape.
Thank you, Ashley. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, we can hear you, we can see you. I might add, I made the terrible mistake of asking Abe if he was affected by load shedding. And of course he is not affected by load shedding because he has solar and battery backup. So that was my embarrassing moment for the day. If you want to share yours in the chat, go ahead. But I'm going to jump off stage now. Abe, you can take it away, and we're really looking forward to what you have to say.
Thanks very much, Ashley. And thanks everyone for tuning in. This really is a very timely conversation. If you're not aware, next week is the Global Climate Conference, COP26. So getting all organizations to switch to clean energy is actually top of the global agenda. So this really is very timely conversation to be happening, because transitioning to solar is the easiest and most available and accessible tool that we all have to combat climate change, and not only climate change, but also to resolve energy independence and energy security as a country and as a continent. So it's really inspiring to see so many Mogi schools available attending on this event. I mean, personally, as you can probably tell, I'm from the UK. I've been working with solar powering schools since 2008. So this really has been a long journey for me to be working with schools. So it's really inspiring for me to see so many people participating, and for this really now to be the time for organizations such as yourselves to be harnessing the power of solar. So I'm the founder and CEO of Sun Exchange. We're based in Cape Town, and we are first and foremost a solar plant leasing platform that was actually built specifically, intentionally for schools to go solar across South Africa. And we've done so in a very innovative way that I'll go to earlier in the next couple of slides. But really, the whole point of this is for schools to be able to go solar at no cost and with the least amount of hassle. We established the company in 2015, and we've now got 45 organizations solar powered, of which over 20 of those projects are schools. So almost half of the solar plants which our platform is now running are for schools. And this is all done online. We have a global community of over 30,000 platform users in 185 countries who purchase solar cells via our platform that get installed onto the rooftops of schools and of our platform. And there are many other benefits as well, which I'll get to later. So in this presentation you're about to see, I'm going to tell you briefly about the different funding models available to your school. Sun Exchange is not the only option available to you, but I'm going to explain what's different about the Sun Exchange model compared to the other financing options that are available. And then afterwards we'll hear from the principal of one of the schools we're powering at Cape Town High, which is Emilton Clutie, who's the principal of that school. So we'll be hearing from him as well. So first and foremost, let's look at some of the ways that you can go solar. So I mean, really, the whole point in solar power is that once you've purchased the hardware, it produces electricity for free. That's kind of the principle. But of course, you've got to have the money available to purchase that hardware, and it is expensive hardware, which is actually the kind of the biggest barrier to entry. I mean, if solar panels were free and the energy is free, then everyone would be doing it. So really the only options available to any school is to purchase the system themselves using one's own money and your own capital. The other option is to borrow money, go to a bank and get a bank loan. And then thirdly is to get solar through a power purchase agreement or a solar lease. And that PPA/solar lease option is what Sun Exchange is providing. So let's just drill down into some of the pros and cons of each one of those options. So I mean, firstly, if you were to buy the system, obviously the benefit of that is that you completely own the system outright. It's your system, you own it, and as a result of purchasing that, you've got immediate savings on the energy bill, and that solar plant is going to last probably around 20 to 25 years, depending on the quality of the components which you've purchased. But of course, on the downside of that is that you are now taking full responsibility for the ownership of that solar plant. I mean, predominantly schools are not in the business of running and generating energy. You're in the business of education. So to use your own resources, both to manage the procurement of a solar plant and then the ongoing supervision of that solar plant does take time and it does take money. And more to the point, because it's your property, if there is an issue, if there is a fault with the system, the cost of rectifying that is down to you as the owner of that solar plant. And because you're not necessarily specialists in solar power, you may not necessarily know whether the solar power plant is performing as it should. It could be chugging away, maybe producing a fraction of what it should be because there's a fault, and you won't necessarily know there's a fault because it does take constant supervision to make sure the solar plant is performing at its peak output. And of course, you also have to take responsibility for ensuring that solar plant and also cleaning it. And I think also what people often forget to take into account is that there's an opportunity cost to the money that you've put into that solar power plant. So if you've got available money as a school, you are in your point is education, not producing energy. So it could be seen that it's better use of your own capital to put that money into enhancing other school facilities and purchasing new educational materials, for example. So with that established, you can now also look at borrowing money to purchase a solar plant. And with that comes the same positives of buying it yourself. In fact, you are still buying it, you're just buying it with someone else's money. So you have the same pros as purchasing this thing yourself, but it does then come with the costs of borrowing money, interest rates, and the risk that you are exposed to by borrowing money is that when you're servicing a loan, those loan payments have to be made once per month, irrespective of the savings that you've experienced from owning that solar plant. So in the winter months, for example, when the solar power plant is producing the least amount of energy, it could be that your interest payments are far greater than the actual savings you're getting. So you may actually find that if you borrow money, your short-term cash flow is actually negative. You've actually hindered your financial position in the short term whilst you're servicing that loan down. So that's something to be very considerate of when you're looking at loan options, looking at the payment plans, and seeing if they're fixed payments or whether you can pay proportionally to the savings you're realizing from that solar plant. And of course, if you're borrowing the system, again, you have to take full responsibility for the supervision of its performance and insurance and cleaning of the solar plant. Loans can be expensive. There are high costs of borrowing, and of course the qualification of those loans again does take time and resources away from your day-to-day activities. So the third option is through a PPA or a solar lease. They're pretty much the same thing. Legally they're just slightly different, but effectively the whole point of a PPA or a solar lease is that you're just paying per unit of electricity produced by a solar plant, and that solar plant is owned by another organization such as Sun Exchange. Sun Exchange owns that solar plant, but it's installed onto your roof at no cost to your school whatsoever. Because it's owned by Sun Exchange or another provider, Sun Exchange's obligation and responsibility and best interest is to make sure that solar plant is operating at its absolutely peak output at all times, and making sure it's fully maintained and monitored, because we receive income as a company, as a business, for each kilowatt hour that solar plant produces. So it's in our interest to make sure that it's producing as much as it possibly can. But those kilowatt hours that you're purchasing from that solar power plant are purchased at a price which is far cheaper than the cost you're currently buying electricity from your municipality or from Eskom. So you can kind of consider it as having an additional electricity supplier. Traditionally, you've got only one solar supplier, which is your municipality, an electricity supplier. But now you've got a supplementary electricity supplier, which is supplying you electricity that's cheaper, that's actually sourced from sunlight. And that is how to kind of perceive a power purchase agreement. And they're long-term agreements. They're at 20-25 years. But the rate you're locking into is guaranteed to be lower than the alternative. And of course, you don't have any of the obligations of managing and monitoring the system. That's all taken care of by the owner of the solar plant. So if you take all those things into account, you can kind of draw up the cost comparisons of leasing a solar plant versus buying it or borrowing it or doing nothing. Obviously, if you do nothing, you're getting no savings. There's no benefit to you whatsoever for doing nothing. So I don't recommend doing nothing. There's always something you can do to improve the savings or the electricity costs of your school. If you borrow money, you obviously having to service interest on that loan, and then you have to pay for maintaining and supervising that solar plant for life. But you are, of course, realizing savings through owning that solar plant. If you buy outright, you obviously don't have that cost of debt, but there is that opportunity cost. There is the amount of work your money could be doing in other areas. You could be building additional classrooms, improving educational services, etc. And then, of course, you then have to insure the plant and pay for maintenance and things like that. So again, there are costs to buying, which people often overlook. So of course, then the lease option is you're just realizing savings. There's no other costs whatsoever. It's completely hassle-free, and you're literally receiving lower cost electricity, and those savings would exceed the savings you would get from purchasing the system outright or borrowing money to purchase the system outright. So this is obviously all enabled on our platform through a two-directional system, if I want to call it that. I mean, our platform and our business has a vision, and that's where any people in the world, anyone in the world, can benefit from solar power, and that's from both sides. That's both organizations benefiting from solar power and individuals benefiting from solar power. And you may wonder how that works, but it works like this. So we put your school on our platform and invite individuals from around the world, and those individuals could be people from your own community, it could be from your surrounding communities, it could be from people nationwide, or people you've never even met or never will meet on the other side of the world who choose to purchase a solar panel via our website that gets installed onto the roof of your school. And as a result of doing this, you get solar panels onto your roof at no cost to you, and you're just paying for the use of those solar panels, and our platform administers and manages those payments back to the owners of the solar panel, and we manage and maintain the system. So we make it simple, we make it affordable and hassle-free to make sure that you can focus on your core mission of delivering education. So how it works in process, the first step is that we provide you need to provide us with 12 months energy bills. So we need to it's a completely no obligation assessment just to check how much electricity your school is currently using. And from that, we'll perform an in-depth evaluation of your energy usage. So we can then we'll perform an on-site inspection to check around what is your energy efficiency status as a school? Are there other things that could be done prior to the solar installation to further improve efficiency? And once we've conducted those checks, which would include structural surveys, making sure your roof is capable of supporting the solar plant and that site security is adequate, we can then propose to you a price for leasing the solar plant per kilowatt hour. If that price looks good and attractive to you, we will then host your project on our platform and raise the capital to purchase that solar plant via selling the solar panels to individuals around the world. Once that event is called a crowd sale is completed, the installation of the solar plant will then go ahead. The crowd sale itself, the period of time to raise the money for your school, can be less than 24 hours. In fact, some schools we've hosted on our platform and the projects have sold out in 3 hours. So within 3 hours, your school has got funding at no effort to you whatsoever. And then the installation of the solar plant can take place. Typically takes 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the size of the school. And then the moment the system goes live and you start producing electricity, you are seeing savings. And from then on in, for the remainder of the lease period, we're monitoring that solar plant and managing all maintenance. If there's a system fault, we're rectifying it, and you just enjoy reduced cost energy. So on to the next slide. So just to kind of summarize how it works with a lease, there is no capital costs to the school. It's 100% funded. One thing that we often find when people are trying to evaluate the value of a lease to a school, people are often trying to work out what their return on investment is, or when it becomes profitable. But the true answer is the return on investment of leasing is infinite, because there is no capital invested. So it really is just savings. There's no capital costs at all. You're just paying a lower monthly bill. The energy cost savings against the kilowatt hour price are guaranteed. So we absolutely guarantee you'll never pay more than the equivalent energy price to your municipality. Now, sometimes when we go into the deep dive evaluation of the energy setup at your school, sometimes this can actually uncover issues with the way your energy system has currently been structured. Because energy is usually something you just pay once per month, no one ever really looks into it, or maybe there's some political issue in your school that's a decade old, and there's an issue that's been swept under the rug. These sometimes come out, and these are things that we can address and rectify as part of the project. So often there are additional value adds that come about through looking at solar, and that you can actually identify and address other issues that are going on within your school's campus, and make sure that those are also addressed to maximize ongoing savings from a solar plant. This can include things like you're on an inappropriate tariff. So you're on a tariff which doesn't actually suit you as a school. We can, as a manager of the solar project, ensure that you're switching to a more optimal tariff that also complements and benefits the solar, or enhances the value of the solar plant even more. The solar plants that we procure and deploy onto our projects really are delivered to an international standard. We are a global company. Sun Exchange has got customers all over the world, and we make sure, and our teams of solar engineers are absolutely dedicated to ensuring that solar plants are delivered to the absolute best standards possible, because ultimately that solar plant has to last for 20 years under our lease, and it's counter to our benefit as a business to have systems underperforming. So you can be absolutely assured that the systems that we're providing are of the highest quality and have been installed in complete compliance with national codes and regulations. Okay, this kind of harks back to the point, if you are buying a system yourself, you would don't necessarily know whether the system has been installed to the highest standards. You don't necessarily know that the system you're buying is optimized, and you don't actually necessarily know the system has been installed legally, because you're taking responsibility for that as the owner. But through a lease with Sun Exchange, you'll know that the system has been installed to those standards. The monitoring, maintenance and insurance of the solar plant is all taken care of by us. We're monitoring the solar plant 24/7. We have engineers sat in Cape Town monitoring the performance of the solar plants, and we have internet connectivity connected to all our solar plants, so we know immediately if there's a fault. In fact, the chances are if there's a fault, we will go and fix that fault without you necessarily even knowing one ever existed. One of the real unique selling points of Sun Exchange is marketing exposure. This is probably the one point with what Sun Exchange does that no other company can deliver, which is getting exposure of your school to an international and national audience, because we advertise the solar project to the community. And when we mean to the community, we're talking about the Sun Exchange members. Anyone can register and become a Sun Exchange member and start buying, but this can include people from your own school. I mean, many participants in school projects are old school pupils, so alumni, staff, faculty, even children in some of the school projects that we're powering have been purchased solar panels by their parents and are earning income from solar powering their own education. So this is a really profound additional value add that you can get through Sun Exchange by demonstrating not just the importance of going solar, but also demonstrating the importance of investing for the future and managing and knowing that there's no quick wins, and actually putting money into a solar plant does yield income over time. So it's a very valuable and tangible lesson on investments in general. The other thing is that you've got to be aware of is that not all solar power plants do come with batteries. So if there is load shedding, the solar power plant will cut off. But Sun Exchange we're a specialist solar company. We can and do provide solar power plants with battery backup where it's suitable for your school. Obviously batteries are expensive, so we have to evaluate carefully what parts of your school's electricity network you want to have powered by battery. But it is entirely possible for us to do that, and also to connect the solar power plant to a generator if you've got a generator on site already. Now, despite the fact I've highlighted many reasons why buying the system yourself is not necessarily in everyone's best interest, you actually can buy it from us whenever you wish. There is a buyout schedule in our lease, so ever at any one time you feel that it would be beneficial for you to purchase and own the system yourself, you can absolutely do so. In fact, some schools or organizations like to kind of try before they buy. You can actually go and lease the solar power plant, establish that it works, completely de-risk the investment by having it purchased up front and installed and running optimally before choosing to buy it. So it absolutely is possible to buy the system from our lease at any time. And then of course there's the fact that you have a solar plant on your school campus, which you can use as a learning opportunity for your learners to demonstrate how solar power works. So with those established, let's look at some of the schools that we've solar powered. So one of the schools that we solar powered we're very proud of is Cape Town High School. It went live earlier in the year. What year is it? It was this year. And there's 5,228 solar cells in that project that were purchased by 80 members of our platform around the world. That project sold out in 6 hours. The system's now been generating more energy than forecast, and it's reduced nearly 30,000 kilograms of CO2. And we're going to be hearing from the principal of that school at the end of this presentation. In terms of numbers, here's how it looks for here's how it actually looks for Cape Town High School specifically. So they paid nothing. They are paying nothing for maintenance and management insurance. Their total forecast savings over 20 years is 1.6 million rand, which is around 77,000 rand average annual savings. And those savings have come about through a year one saving of 35% against their existing tariff with the City of Cape Town. So we're giving a 35% discount against their existing electricity costs of existing tariff with the school. And our lease price escalates linked with inflation rather than linked with whatever Eskom can get away with via NERSA. So really the savings will increase year on year. So the average tariff saving that Cape Town High School will benefit from is 47% saving on their tariff compared to their existing tariff. We obviously try to move as much of your energy to solar as possible, but of course at night time there's not much we can really do, and in winter time the solar production is often less than the needs of the building. So really we can target around a 30% movement of your current energy to solar, but we're always looking for ways to maximize that switch, because obviously every unit we move to solar is a unit which is now being delivered at a lower cost. The school got free marketing, got to promote themselves via our platform with a beautiful promotional video that we put together for some of our projects where it's needed. And the school's now already avoided 691 tons of CO2, and it took 1 month for the installation from the crowd sale completion. So it really is quite quick and fast and swift to get the school solar powered. This is just a glimpse of how it looks on our website. So, I keep saying about this crowd sale and our members buying it, but this is how it works. So we host your solar project with all the stats and data around it on our website. And we send it out via our social media to all of our community around the world, and promoting your school's brand, your message, and we create a buzz and excitement around that solar project that you can also communicate. We actually want to show you a video of that. So Ashley, I don't know if you can play that video.
Yes, we're about to play it. And just give Erica in the background 1 second.
Great. So this is just an example of the kind of videos we produce for school projects, so that they can showcase themselves and the students in the school that are championing the project.
Awesome. Let's hear that. There we go.
Cape Town High School is located right at the centre of the city bowl of South Africa's mega city, at the foot of one of the world's natural wonders, Table Mountain. In 1860, a small one-room school was opened that largely accommodated immigrants to Cape Town, and by 1921 that school was renamed Cape Town High School and has since become a multicultural and diverse school that represents South Africa's population. In their vision, they state a devotion to tolerance and non-discrimination, which can be compared to the Sun Exchange, where individuals from all around the world come together and, despite differences, work toward the solar revolution. In buying solar cells of this project, you'll be offsetting your carbon footprint and earning an income stream powered by sunlight for a period of 20 years. The running costs of the school will be drastically reduced, and their finances can be put toward educating future leaders. Each solar cell in this project costs just 84 Rand, or around $5.50. Each solar cell will produce over 7 kilowatt hours of solar electricity per year, which will be purchased at a starting price of £1.20 or around 8 US cents per kilowatt hour. This will give you an estimated internal rate of return of 11.55%.
Thank you, Ashley. Go back to the slides. Great, so that's the video. So people saw that, and as a result of us promoting this campaign, the project sold out in a few hours, and then of course all the final permissions were put in place, and permissions from the SECG. So we kind of managed all of that stuff, and then the system got installed. So just the kind of the real nitty gritty of that project is they're paying £1.20 per kilowatt hour for electricity through Sun Exchange, and they were paying £1.84 to the municipality. And our lease goes up at inflation plus 2%, so around 7% on average, and the municipal escalation cost average around 8.8%. In reality, those were estimates, but in reality, CPI has been much lower than forecast. So our leases have been going up by about 3 or 4% a year, and the municipal escalation costs have been going up near almost 15% in some instances. So the actual savings have actually been far greater than forecast for that school. And this kind of graph here just shows that how our tariff escalates at a slower rate of the municipality, thus realising greater savings over time. In terms of the participants, how it works within contracts, so Sun Exchange sits there in the middle, and we are leasing the solar power plant to your school. As far as you're concerned, you're leasing a solar plant from one company. But beneath Sun Exchange are all these thousands of solar cell owners who are all owning solar panels that are powering your school. And those can, of course, involve people in your own community as well. We appoint a solar installer. We work with a number of the country's best and biggest solar installation companies to make sure the systems are installed properly. And we supervise that, and we sign off and accept all of our solar plants to, as I said, international standards. We've also solar powered many schools, but just to kind of just quickly run through a few. Proton Heights Academy, that system's been running for a few years now. It's a 34 kilowatt system. We've been also solar powering Pioneer School, a visually impaired school, 113 kilowatts with a 32% average tariff saving and 40,000 kilograms of CO2 offset. So we really do solar power range of schools all over the country. So I do recommend you check them out on our website. We don't just do schools, although we've done more schools than anything. We also solar power supermarkets, shopping centres, retirement homes, recycling facilities, nature parks, you name it. We will put solar panels on it. So if you have any questions, do contact us, and we highly recommend you reach out to us if you're looking to take your school solar. You can follow all of the details to contact us. We'll go into next, but we are now open to questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abe. Yeah, so exciting to see what you guys are doing. An incredible model that you've set up there. I think there are so many questions. So what I would like to say is that if you would like to be connected back to Sun Exchange for them to answer specific questions or for them to come do a free non-obligatory assessment at your school for solar, please click yes in the poll. You'll see that there's to the right-hand side of the screen that you're looking at, there is a polls tab. Click there, click yes, and then within that we will be able to connect you back to the Sun Exchange. Okay, let's start on one or two questions. We are going to do some more questions at the end, but let's just pick a few. Okay, I think this is a very relevant one for some of the smaller schools, but is there a minimum size solar plant that Sun Exchange will do or consider to make it still viable option?
Yeah, the smallest projects that really make it viable are around 10,000 units of electricity a month. But of course, if you're paying really high electricity tariff, then that system can get smaller, which I think it works out to around 20 kilowatts of solar plant is the kind of smallest, which makes it viable. Of course, if you want to put in battery storage, and then the whole value of the system increases, and that will also reduce this overall system size that we can deploy. But typically around 20 kilowatts, which is a reasonably sized primary school.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. Okay, I think I'm going to clump these two together. So Kevin Steenkamp, our friend up north, he wants to know what are the maintenance costs to the schools, and does the school have to insure the panels? Who insures the panels? So
through a Sun Exchange lease, everything's insured by Sun Exchange. It's insured for fire, theft, damage, public liability, and of course we're building maintenance reserves month on month to make sure that any ongoing maintenance costs are covered by Sun Exchange. If you're to do it yourself and own the system yourself, then of course there are costs to all of those associated with it, which they work up to into the tens of thousands of rand a month in some instances for the ongoing insurance and maintenance. Then I think this is a good one. This one also got asked yesterday in the session, but how do public schools get a long-term contract approved? So this is now the contract with the Department of Education for financing. Is it not normally 3 years, the maximum contract? So the maximum contract length that we've seen in Western Cape and in other provinces is 9 9.5 years is the maximum you can enter into a contract. So of course, as soon as the 9.5 year term ends, you can extend the contract. So our leases have like an automatic renewal in place. So after your maximum contract term available to you through your Department of Education, the contract does actually end, but you can then also buy the system at that point, or you can automatically renew the lease. So that's how we can overcome that maximum contract term, is by entering into an auto renewal, or you can exit the lease by purchasing the system at that time.
Awesome, thank you. I think that we're going to go on to Hamilton now, and we're going to hear from the school that we've seen already. Have you seen a picture of it? It's awesome. But Cape Town High School has recently had solar installed by the Sun Exchange. And I'm going to chat a little bit to Hamilton Kluter, their principal. And Abe, we'll see you back a little bit later. We're going to ask some more of these questions, so don't go anywhere. And please, if you have more questions, pop them in that question tab. I have some time at the end to ask them all to Abe. And like I said, if you would like to get be connected back to the Sun Exchange, please go and just click yes in that poll, so that we can then connect your school and Abe to come and do an assessment, answer questions, or get going with this incredible venture. So Abe, I'm going to say goodbye to you for now, and we'll see you a little bit later. And then in the meantime, I am going to Hamilton. You can join us on stage. Great, welcome Hamilton Kluter.
Also,
one, we're excited to hear the rich history of your school, but the solar journey that you've taken, the courageous step of already going forward with the Sun Exchange, and just some valuable information and experience that you're going to share with us today. I think to start off, Hamilton, can you tell us a little bit about Cape Town High School and yourself?
Thank you very much for this invitation. Our school started in the 1880s as a school for mostly immigrant learners. In 1923, the school changed name to Cape Town High School. We've had a wonderful journey so far. The school was incredible, delivering excellent results in all areas of academics, culture, and sport. And in 1989, the school parents decided that they want to open up the school for all peoples of Cape Town. And in 1990, for the first time, all races were permitted to attend our school. We are now a school of more than 800 learners. Our learners are doing exceptionally well, and we focus on maths and science currently. And our school decided with this particular journey of going solar, and it's been a long stretch involving a lot of discussion about solar and the advantages of having solar that we've decided upon. So we are certainly making sure that we decide on the correct path for the future for our learners.
Wow, Hamilton, that's an incredible history, and it speaks so much into the history of our country. And I love that there's a rich past and there's a rich future looking forward with things like implementing solar and that. Tell us a little bit exactly, why did Cape Town High School decide to go solar?
Well, our journey started not last year or in 2019, but our journey started already around 2012, 2013, when we worked with a company or an organization called Alternative Information Development Center, and looking at the prospect of having solar at our school, retrofitting lights, etc., in order to save electricity. But for them, it was part of a million job campaign that they were involved with. And then in 2017, our education department hosted a seminar around greening of schools and green energy, which I attended, and looking at what are the possibilities for schools to reduce their energy bills, but also to create their own energy. And so it has always been an intention to move towards solar, or to create your own energy in order to save. And we started off at the the journey. So from that time already, investigating possibilities of how we can have solar. And I think what is happening is that becoming leaders rather in solar energy, knowing what the environment is and the crisis that are in our environment, we decided to go onto this journey. But also, I think one of the reasons is that when we came across the Sun Exchange, it provided us really with a solution to what we needed in terms of our particular needs and so on. And so without necessarily having a huge outlay of capital, it provides us that opportunity to install panels and be part of that process. But it also helps us with our own learning and our own focus of teaching learners about energy, the crisis that we experience, and then how we can mitigate further in terms of energy crisis and help and solve problems around energy, and knowing that South Africa's reliance on coal or fossil fuels and so forth, and teach them about being green, teach them about the green economy and the green values that we want to install in our learners.
Incredible. I love the practicality, but I also love the passion and that thread of educating the next generation through this. I think there's such value there. In terms of starting up, I love the kind of background and research that you guys did and the journey. I mean, it took a long time to get to the point of the solar panels being up. What were the different options that your school did explore for going solar?
Well, yes, I think there are quite a bit of them, and I think why we decided on this particular option. One is that we can raise the capital ourselves, and through school funds, school fee collections, or hosting fundraising events, and then go on and purchase solar panels and pay an installer for that. But that means that we part with money that is important for our critical focus, which is learning and teaching at school. The second one was that we can approach the company and ask the company to install, and they would do financing on our behalf. They'll go to a retail bank or a financing house that will then charge us interest, and we will have to pay at the end of the day for both energy that we're going to consume, as well as for the equipment that is going to be financed. And that creates a costly affair for us. So the third option was, and why it was so good for us to discover this option, was the Sun Exchange option. We don't have to have any outlay of capital. That money is being crowdfunded, that they go into the market, and people who share the same passion with regards to green energy will invest into the company, invest into our school. But also the fact that we as people can buy into this project and get dividends from it. So the only thing we have to do as a school is to pay for the consumption of the electricity at the end of the day, and we don't have it. The other option or other advantage of this is also that Sun Exchange did the installation, they did everything, they do the maintenance as well as the insurance, and they look after the project, and we have to do nothing at the end of the day.
Amazing, amazing. I think you've touched on a few things already, but why don't you expand a little bit on why exactly you chose Sun Exchange? Is there anything you'd like to add on just their model? I think it's so unique and so beneficial for other schools to hear.
I think the advantage of this is that I think all our schools, we are struggling with regards to funds. In particular, our school, we serve a particular community, and our school fees are not necessarily extraordinarily high. It's about 9,200 Rand for the year, 9,300 Rand for the year. And we are reliant on those school fees. And so the fact that we don't have to lay capital out in order to purchase and to install this solar panels was a great option and advantage from Sun Exchange, obviously. So we didn't have to go to a bank, and obviously it is not permitted really for us to do that, but we didn't have to go and make some extra loans to get cash. Here we have an advantage of Sun Exchange is doing the crowdfunding with their partners, and we were able to install this the solar panels at our school and make use of the facility that way. So we, like I said earlier, we could make use or we can buy into the project ourselves in terms of buying, be part of the crowdfunding, etc. And therefore, it was a huge advantage for us to be part of that process. Sun Exchange obviously also did all the footwork, the groundwork, making sure that we don't really have to do a lot of work in order to make this project a reality for our school.
Awesome. And tell me, okay, so if we go over to the process of putting the panels up and getting ready to do so, was the process very complicated? Or did you find it to be a relatively simple process because you had the right partner?
I think it was relatively simple, and I can say I think it's better to do then with the right partner. But it's relatively simple, the process in itself. For us as a school and with our school governing body, obviously there were lots of deliberations regarding, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right partner? And once we managed that process and we said, okay, as a school, we resolved to do this, as a school governing body, we resolved to do this and go ahead with this, it became very easy because Sun Exchange had everything ducks in the row, the applications, what we had to do. They did all the footwork in terms of permissions from the City of Cape Town, as well as permissions from the Department of Public Works, and so forth. We provided them, obviously, with our energy audit or energy costs over the past 12 months to determine what will be the right fit for our school. And they were able to work out for us, this is what we need. And when we look at all of those things, it was quite easy for us at the end of the day. And they just followed through and worked out everything for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. So in terms of crowdfunding that you guys did, I hear you have quite a unique story of how long it took you to crowdfund this particular project, or took Sun Exchange to fund this particular project.
It was really unbelievable. The whole thing, it opened up in the morning and the car sale was sold up within 1 day. You open up, you look at it, and you just see everything is going. So people were excited to invest in this project. I think they believe in the project, and it is true that it was sold within 1 day. Obviously, there were a couple of delays because it was during the period of March last year, and April and August when schools were closed due to the COVID-19. So we managed to have the project after schools reopened. Within 1 month, the whole project was up and running. And I must say the saving that it provides for us, we can see that it's a reality. If you compare what we are paying for to the City of Cape Town at 180, whereas we pay 120 towards Sun Exchange in terms of that electricity consumption. So it is really, we will save on average about 77,000 rand per year, and it's going to be over a period of 20 years, and that will be brought back into the school. That saving is coming back into the school which we'll use for our core function, learning and teaching.
Incredible. I think, Emilton, a good question would be are you completely off the grid now, as people like to say, or is your school still using energy from the city of Cape Town and Eskom?
No, we are not completely off the grid. We use about 1/3 or 2/3 from the city of Cape Town, and with our solar panels providing about 1/3 of our energy needs. We can say that during weekends when we are not in use at school, we can feed back the excess energy back into the grid towards the city of Cape Town. And then also, I think on particular days, and especially depending on weather and so forth, we are completely off the grid. If I can make an example, on the 6th of October, for example, all our electricity needs were provided by our solar panels, and we didn't make use of the city of Cape Town energy or electricity, and that is just wonderful, because hopefully in future we'll be able to get completely off the grid. But at this moment in time, small step for us, and we are excited about that.
I mean, I love that. And we're probably going to say this quite a few times in this event, but schools are the perfect kind of avenue to have solar because you operate in sunny times. Well, for the better part of the year, we have a degree of sunshine in our lovely country. So yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. In terms of the actual solar system that's implemented in your school, is it very complicated to manage on your side, or has it been quite simple?
Well, I think it's quite simple. And the reason for that is that Sun Exchange is monitoring on a 24-hour and 7-day-a-week the whole system. If there's any faults, any problems around the system, they will know immediately, and we'll see to the maintenance of it. Our role in this regard is that we pay the bill. We pay them monthly for our use of electricity, and that is the important one. But absolutely simple process, which does not really involve our school, and I think that's the advantage, because we are not in the business of managing solar.
Awesome. And I mean, what a pleasure to pay the bill when it's so much less than you possibly were paying before. I'm sure you do that so with a happy heart.
Yes.
Okay. So I think if we climb into, we have a lot of schools watching today, and they're wanting to start this journey. What are the lessons you've learned from having gone as far as you've gone with solar? Can you share this in terms of helping other schools with what's the next step, and some of the things you did learn along the way?
Yes. I think there's a lot to learn, and I think we'll still learn from this whole process. But I think for me, it is important that we do our homework. We have lots of companies contacting our schools and inquiring about solar, and even proposing offering solar energy to our schools. And these companies are not necessarily within that space. It might be copier companies or specializing in printing, etc. that is now venturing into solar because of the possibility of making some extra money, etc. So it's important that we do our homework very carefully. I think the other one is that the options available of how to fund or to realize this dream of having solar is important. That we explore the different options, and that because not every option fits, or the same option fits all our schools. So we have different options. If schools can afford to go on their own and they can manage it, maybe that's an option that they can do. The other one is that storage capacity for electricity that you generate is important. And then, for example, for us in future to buy batteries to store the excess energy and to use it when we need it, and that we can become really totally off the grid. That will be the lessons that I have learned specifically. But I think it's important that at the end of the day that, Sun Exchange has done the spade work for us. And we've learned that because it's quite a lot of things. If you look at what it involves, and they've made it much more easier for us to have solar panels because they've done the work. So those are some of the lessons that we have learned and that I can share perhaps with other people, principal schools that wants to install solar at their particular sites.
Awesome. And I think, it's the first part of that answer really touches on why we're doing an event like this, showcasing schools like yourself that have taken the step, that can give us the right information and feedback, but then also the right partners. So I think that's very essential. We want to see, from a Schoolscape side, schools spend wisely, but also schools spend with credible companies that at the end of the day are going to deliver the best service. So it's really so helpful to hear about your experience. I think the one thing I want to go back to, you did touch on it a little bit, was how the project is robust with lots of documentation, information, quite a lot of permissions you need to get to do so. Was this a challenge? Was it a difficult thing to navigate? Was it very complicated to do from the school side? I think many schools are nervous about all those unknown things. It's not just about putting the panels up at the end of the day.
Yes, no, I think not at all. I think, the point is that our school has been in existence for a long time. And I think one of the critical criteria for them was as a partner in this regard would be to see, is this also a trustworthy partner on the other hand, because they are also investing in this. So our school has been in existence for close to over 100 years. And so that is one of the reasons why they would consider us. Another one is that when they look at our energy expense over a particular period and done an audit for 12 months, for example, prior to the installation to see what are your particular needs. We have a plant that provides 25 kilowatts of electricity. There are plants that are much bigger and depending on what are your needs. So they provided us with that technical know-how and looked at that and say what is possible for us. And I think that is key so that we don't under or over invest or into where you install a much higher electricity or solar panels in terms of what are your needs, and now you know exactly this is what you need and this is what you can afford, and they assist you in that regard. So it was easy for us to make those decisions based on the fact that they really assisted us with the technical assessment and the fact that they could give us guidance in that regard. We provided them with all this information, and we got from them honest feedback with regards to what is going to happen. They determined and they looked at our roof space, where would be the best place to place the solar panels that has sunshine throughout the year. That will be the best and not hide and where our trees or the shadows will fall on the panels. And so they provided us with all of that technical knowledge and information, which made it really easy for us and not a very complicated process. So they also engage with the Department of Public Works and with the Education Department around the installation of solar, and that is important for us.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I think as we finishing up, Hamilton, I think one thing I need to ask, last question, is I think we've heard a lot about Sun Exchange. We've heard from Sun Exchange today, and it's really been valuable information that you've passed on to us just about your school's journey in this. And so I think, in closing, why do you think that other schools should consider contacting Sun Exchange, and why is it at the end of the day was it your best decision to go with them?
I think the one thing about it is that I think as a school and as part of the small community, we are contributing obviously to minimize the effects of climate change and to minimize the effects of fossil fuel use on our environment, and we contribute, I think, a little bit to saving our environment and to make it sustainable and keep it for the future generations, what is left of it. So I think we as Cape Town High School and people should, and any school should really be part of that journey of creating an awareness of environmental issues, and be part of the solution. We are small, but every small step or every small bit helps in the greater scheme of things in order to save our planet. And I think schools, as users of electricity, we are quite huge users of electricity. We can contribute in that.
Wonderful. I think I said this earlier, but practical and passion kind of coming together here. And yeah, I think Hamilton, well done. You guys are doing an amazing thing there. You've taken on quite the journey, a lot of courage, I think, that took to do it. And I can see many schools walking in your footsteps with some better tools after hearing your story today. And yeah, I think a huge thank you for your time. Thank you for spending some time with us and sharing. And yeah, all the best. We look forward to hearing when you get to the next point in your journey of some backup batteries and really going off the grid and that. But yeah, otherwise, all the best. I trust that the next 100 years of your school and all the amazing rich history that it holds will continue to have a great impact on this country and all your learners. But thank you again, and you must have a lovely day. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that was such a great case study to see what a school is doing. And yeah, I think there's a lot of value in exploring the different models and exploring what Sun Exchange has and checking and seeing what is right for your school. I know that we are going to now transition into the next insert. I'm gonna stop saying bear with me. The next insert, and we have Shandor live with us. Shandor is from a company that works very closely with the Sun Exchange and is one of many of their installers, and they do a lot of work with schools, as we're going to hear now. We wanted to look at a few more schools so that you can see the different kind of things that a couple of schools have done. We also want to look at some other financial, a little bit deeper into a CapEx model, this model. In talking to a lot of schools about solar this week, Shandor, a lot of them actually said, well, we actually want to finance it, or we want to do this, or is this a good idea? And I said, just wait, we have the experts coming. So here is one of the experts, Dr. Shandor Nagay, is going to talk us through from Impower's perspective what they're doing, but also just from his years and years in the industry. So welcome to Schoolscape stage, and at the end we're going to answer all your questions. We're going to do a proper Q&A with Abe, and so just bear with us. We will get to those questions. Keep posting the questions. We are loving the questions. We will also take all your questions and prepare a Q&A doc that we will send to you afterwards with all of them answered. And like I said, if you want to be connected to either Impower or Sun Exchange, Impower is an installer of installation. They can come also do assessments. I won't steal Shandor's light. He will tell you about this, but please click yes in the polls. Over to you, Shandor. We are looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashley. I'm excited to be here today and also excited to see so many interested participants in schools to share and learn how they will be able to benefit and reduce the carbon footprints with solar PV. A little bit first about myself. My name is Shandor Nagi. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Impower. And we are a specialized engineering, procurement, and project management company, or EPC. And we've been working with the Sun Exchange for many years and installed and completed many projects for them. We've done about 20 megawatts of solar and battery storage projects, primarily in South Africa. And the solutions that we provide range to a big degree from rooftop solutions to ground-mounted solutions. We've also done carport systems. We also provide microgrid and storage solutions, as well as greenfield solar project development. We've also started with such projects as well. What I thought to start and kick off with is to share with you a few schools that we have solar powered in the past, and you might actually recognize some of them. The first one that I'm gonna start with is Rondebosch Boys High School, boys school in Cape Town. 136.9 kilowatt peak, so that's the size of the solar system. For a school, that's a relatively large system, I have to say. It was a funded solution by the Sun Exchange, and the carbon savings are 235 tons of carbon dioxide per year. The next school I'd like to introduce was Groote High School, also in Cape Town, was also funded through the Sun Exchange. A little bit smaller with 90.5 kilowatt peak and 179 tons per carbon dioxide savings per year. You might also see that there's not always a direct correlation between the carbon savings and the plant capacity. That's also dependent to the location and orientation of the solar panels, the irradiation of the specific location where the solar plant or the school is located. So all of these play a part in the savings. Then we've done all the Weinberg schools. So Weinberg Girls Junior School, you see, this is a bit of a smaller system, 53.6 kilowatt peak, also in Cape Town, was also funded through the Sun Exchange with 144 tons of carbon dioxide savings per year. Then we've got the Weinberg Boys Junior School with 42.8 kilowatt peak, was also funded through the Sun Exchange and 132 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And then last but not least, the Weinberg Girls High School, 84.4 kilowatt peaks, also funded through the Sun Exchange in Cape Town, and 245 tons of carbon dioxide savings per year. Then, in fact, we have just completed the installation for Rob Ferreira High School, a school in Mpumalanga in White River. This is a larger system with 141 kilowatt peak. And if I'm not mistaken, then the school will actually be commissioned tomorrow. So congratulations to Rob Ferreira High School to helping them reduce the carbon footprint with 202.4 tons of carbon dioxide per year. Then we've also done Bergfleet High School in Cape Town with about 60 kilowatt peak, also funded through the Sun Exchange, and carbon savings of about 79 tons of carbon dioxide per year. Westwell Girl High School in Westwell in KwaZulu-Natal of 80.3 kilowatt peak, was also funded through the Sun Exchange, and 133.6 tons of carbon dioxide savings per year. And then we've got quite a small system here. It's Abe mentioned that already earlier, about 32 kilowatt peak, Solomon Senekal High School in the Free State. Was one of the first installations that we've done in terms of schools with the Sun Exchange, with 30.6 tons of carbon dioxide savings per year. Then one that I haven't actually mentioned yet, or I haven't got a slide, and you've seen most of the solutions here actually funded. So you can see with specifically public schools, it's such a popular model due to all the benefits that Abe has highlighted before. One recent outright purchase or CapEx solution that we are busy actually installing now is with the Brackenfell Primary School. They've just received an approval for upgrading their feeder to a dedicated feeder, allowing them to install now 50 kilowatt peak system, together with a small generator to allow them to cover also essential loads during load shedding. So that is an example of an outright purchase solution. Then I thought you had already heard quite a bit of the benefits and the specifics around the funded solution, and I will share a little bit about how the modeling works when we look at the CapEx model and bank financing, I will take you through the various steps that we are following in order to come to a provisional proposal for the school. By the way, we are not only doing schools like the Sun Exchange, we're also providing solar solutions. We're coming primarily from the commercial and industrial sector, and we have provided solar solutions for shopping malls, many spas, shopping centers, old age homes, and in industrial companies, but also, of course, schools and mining companies. Yeah, so where does it start? Well, it starts with an interest to go solar. We would first have a look at your electricity bills and analyze your consumption, and from there determine what your essential loads are, what your overall consumption is, and then we would model optimal size for the solar system for your school. Now, schools are different to shopping centers, which are operational mostly during the sun hours, during the day and on the weekend. So for schools, we have got a reduced what we call self-consumption. That is the energy that the solar system produces that the school can consume themselves, because schools typically close a little bit earlier. They're not open during all hours of the sunshine. They're not closed on Saturdays, Sundays, as well as public holidays. So a typical number that we see for schools that indicates that the system size is good is about 85%. And if it's significantly less than that, then we would say that the solar system for the school is probably a bit too big. And if it's lower than that, then if it's higher than that, then it's probably too small. So we play around with the size to find the right size for the school. We then take satellite imagery to come up with what we call is a provisional design. We take the layout on the roof, put the solar panels on, take any additional requirements like battery power and so forth into the design. And from there, we are able to put a provisional quote together for the school. If it is a finance solution, we would provide the data to the Sun Exchange, and the Sun Exchange would then work out a tariff. That can then be shared with the school governing body. And if the school governing body approves the provisional design or the provisional proposal in principle, then we would move forward to what we call is a final offer. During that stage, and Abe alluded to that a little bit earlier, we would come out to site, we would do a proper site assessment, do a roof structural analysis, check any obstacles or any shading that might be impacted through the roof. We'll, if necessary, we obtain also either load data directly from the municipality, or if that's not possible, then we would log data for about 2 weeks to come up with a very accurate consumption pattern. And that then allows us to update our design, and we can from there then calculate the monthly output that the solar system produces. So you see here in the graph, the red bars indicates the total consumption, the total energy production of the solar system, more in summer and less in winter. And then you see the blue bars indicating the self-consumption of the school. And you see a typical scenario for a school here where in December, in the December holidays, the self-consumption drops off significantly. There is high energy production, but less self-consumption. So if it's possible to feed in the energy, then the school can benefit from a feed-in tariff there as well. What we then would do is we would then calculate and do a tariff analysis. And there we go through each step to calculate the different components where the energy savings actually kick in. So first what we do is we model for every hour that the solar system produces energy at the applicable tariff, what the savings would be, divide that by the total number of self-consumed kilowatt hours, and that gives us a tariff that is applicable for the self-consumption kilowatt hours savings. We also model then kVA savings if they apply, because we can forecast, even though it cannot be guaranteed, but we can forecast a possible reduction in kVA charges. They're not always applicable, so we only apply those if the tariff has got kVA charges applicable. There might be feed-in savings that are also applicable. And that together gives us then a blended tariff. And this is the tariff that the solar system is able to displace. And that would also be, so to speak, the municipal tariff that the funded solution would need to beat. We can then calculate the overall cost savings. We can also further include any offset net metering or battery storage components, if applicable, especially in the case of, for instance, peak shaving. And we come then up with a total number of cost savings per month and per year. This then further allows us to calculate a return on investment. And one thing that I haven't mentioned, that in your total return on investment calculation, tax savings can also be considered. Now, just a word on the tax savings. When you install a solar system, you can apply for Section 12B tax savings. That allows you to write off in an accelerated fashion the solar system as a capital expense completely in year one. So at a tax rate of 28%, these are significant savings. The only caveat with that is that for public schools, they don't apply. And that is also why the funded model is so popular with public schools. But for instance, private schools can benefit, and also businesses can benefit from the CapEx model with the accelerated write-off and from the Section 12B tax savings. We see in this example, for instance, in this case, the school was able to, numbers are a bit small, you can't read it really, but the school was able, or will be able, over 20-year lifetime to save over 4 million rand. So significant savings, and that is not even a large system. From the return on investment, we can calculate payback, the payback period. You can see where the break even kicks in, that's in year 4. And then from there onwards, with the CapEx solution, it's basically just free energy. What is typically not included here, and that's also again a benefit with the funded solution, is that certain components don't last. And I saw that was a question in the text chat as well. They don't last over the full lifetime of the 20 years. So if you purchase a system, you need to make provision for either your batteries or your inverters to replace them either after 5 or after 10 years. And that is, of course, an extra cost that comes in. This does not apply in funded solutions, because there you basically purchase energy at a tariff, and therefore any replacement of inverters, of batteries, of solar panels, any repairs is for the funder, so in that case, the Sun Exchange. A word to the payback period. We have seen payback periods coming significantly down. So only a few years ago, we had payback periods of about 7-8 years, and we have come down now to 3 to 5 years. Also strongly dependent on the irradiation and the tariff that you're paying, so high tariff and high irradiation, and we have seen payback periods even under 3 years, so really significant. So I think we are in a very exciting, we are living in very exciting times for solar, for going green, reducing our carbon footprint, and yeah, that's primarily from my side. Over to you, Ashley, and for any further questions.
Thank you so much, Shando. I think that's awesome. It really gives us a balanced look at the different kind of financing options that we have on solar, all of them being highly lucrative for schools. I think we've laughed a bit about it as we've planned for this event, but a school is really one of the best institutions to go solar. Its lights are on during light hours, and so it just works so well for the school. I think the one question that I had that I wanted to just run by you is in terms of the upfront CapEx model and that and those tax backs. That's not. A few schools asked yesterday, and that is not at all kind of permissible in a public school. What about, are there any other tax reductions? Are there any claimbacks that a public school could do for having solar, or is that really just for your private schools that could benefit from those sort of reductions on tax and that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Section 12B tax benefit is really for private schools and businesses only. What will be in place in the future are carbon credits. But again, carbon credits are also only applicable in a capex or purchase scenario. What we haven't actually mentioned, or what I haven't actually mentioned, is that bank financing is also possible. So even though you might have a capex solution, you could actually go bank finance, go approach a bank. Obviously, you have got credit requirements that might be more stringent than they are with some exchange funding. But it is certainly possible with a 5 or 7 year loan to be cash flow positive from day one, maybe not month on month, but over the course of a year. And these carbon credits are applicable for capex solutions. But in the case of funded solutions, you don't own the solar plant, and therefore you can't apply for the carbon credit.
Okay, awesome. I think that just to answer one last question, John Edgar had a question, and he's looking, I think, for a solution for his home. But does Impower do small projects on homes and that, or does John Edgar need to look elsewhere for a company that could do that? Any suggestions around that one?
Yeah, we don't do home installations. We start typically at the installations of 50 kilowatts or up. However, we are happy to refer you to a trusted installation company that we work with for smaller solutions.
Awesome. Okay, so give Shandor a ring, and I'm sure he will be able to help you out on that. Otherwise, watch yesterday's session. I think that one of those companies, they definitely mentioned they could do homes. So yeah, Shandor, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and your input here on our Schoolscape stage. If you would like to get hold of Shandor, please click yes in the polls. Then we can link you back to Impower and their company. And I think most schools would need to start to venture out to look for multiple suppliers. We know how schools procure here at Schoolscape. So please click there so that we can provide all your information from your school back to the suppliers so that they can actually contact you. They won't necessarily get any of your information otherwise. So that is our way to navigate the POPI Act, and also for us to be able to connect you to credible suppliers like Shandor from Impower. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and yeah, we hope to see you back at Schoolscape sometime when we're having further discussions on solar.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Right. Before we close out today's session, we do want to just bring Abe back onto stage for a few minutes. This is our last chance to ask questions. So if there are any more questions that you have, this is it. Otherwise, we will be having our third session on Friday, where we're going to be talking to Woodridge. They've done a ginormous project. They're busy upgrading things. They're busy using solar to pump water around things. I mean, really unique. So that is Friday's session. We'll also be looking at some other things on Friday. You'll get a mail about that later. Right now, let's get back to the 1,000,001 questions that have come through. I'm going to touch on a few. We can't get to everyone's questions, but we will be doing a Q&A sheet from these sessions, which we'll get Abe to weigh in on, and we will send that to you after the session so that we do actually get to ask everyone's questions. I think let's start off with one interesting question, Abe, that came through. That was about, and I think Shandor touched quickly on it, but I know you mentioned that the panels last for 25 years. If they go with battery backups so that they could navigate load shedding or things like that, how long does that technology last? And what is would the school then be liable to upgrade that technology every 5 years or so?
Firstly, can you hear me, because I have an issue with my? Okay, great. So if you're a school leasing a solar plant, you needn't even really worry about the life cycle of the various components, because they're going to be replaced at no cost under the lease as soon as that equipment is due. With batteries lifespan is usually determined by a number of cycles the battery goes through, so the number of charges from empty to full. Typically that's between 4,000 to 6,000 cycles, so that's 4,000 to 6,000 days if you're charging it daily. That's about between 10 and 15 years for the life cycle of battery. And the solar panels themselves usually have a 10-year product warranty, but actually they've got a power guarantee for 25 years. I mean, I've personally seen solar panels that are 40 years old, still operating. And I think there are some solar panels floating around in space that are even older than that. So yeah, solar panels are built to last. There's no moving parts. The inverters are the component that does need replacing, probably at year 10. And again, that's covered under a lease, and you will need to replace it at your cost if you're buying the system.
Awesome. Okay. Yesterday or Monday, we discussed a little bit about the benefit of having LED lighting and things like that put in prior to installing solar to get your usage down. With the Sun Exchange model and that, does Sun Exchange cover things like lights and that to make the system more profitable, or is that something that would be the school's responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, it's the school ideally should be. For start, it's much easier to save a unit of energy than it is to generate a unit of energy. So before even looking at solar, the first thing the school has to do is are you efficient users of energy already? If not, take action, because there are some really simple things you can do to reduce your bill without even looking at solar. And only once you've optimized your energy consumption, then look at solar, because there's no point putting in a 100 kilowatt solar plant if 50 kilowatts of solar would actually suit you if you've used the energy more efficiently. So do that first. Go and check, do an energy audit, contact your municipality. I know that the Western Cape Education Department has got a green screen schools program, and there's so much guidance out there. Even a lights off campaign, for example, can do a world of good. Look at your energy usage first. If we come around and we do a site survey, we can spot things that you might want to take into to do. Changing light bulbs is not a really expensive exercise. It's just something that does have a drastic reduction in energy costs. But but Sun Exchange won't cover the replacement of those light bulbs. We don't want to take on the management responsibility of changing globes every few weeks.
No, maybe not. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that. So I think we've seen with what Shandor had to say from Impower, being one of your partners and installers, and what you covered in your talk, that almost half of your projects from the Sun Exchange company have been schools. So why is this? Why is it that you've got such a large focus on schools and renewable energy with schools?
It's because Sun Exchange, we really are a mission-driven company, and we think that schools are the most fundamentally important operations to get solar powered, because you have this tremendous educational benefit, and there's a social impact. You're reducing costs of schools and education, which really is like the absolute base plate of sustainable development. So that's predominantly why we look at schools. And of course, schools, more than any other type of operation, are really operating against the line. Very few schools have the luxury of capital available to buy solar power plants. So therefore, a fully funded solution is much more suitable and no-brainer for a school than for example, a profitable business that's got bags of cash laying around and looking to deploy it somehow. So schools often aren't in that luxury position, and therefore a fully funded lease system is very suitable for them. Plus the additional benefits of going solar through Sun Exchange with the marketing, etc. So that's why we fundamentally focus on schools.
Awesome. Okay. I think that, as we start to wrap up, I think one thing that has come up quite a lot in our discussions, and maybe just some input here would be, is can schools save a lot of money by feeding the excess electricity? So schools are offered, in the evenings, on weekends, in school holidays. There's massive gaps in the year where school isn't going to be using the electricity. So can you talk a little bit into this, feeding back into the grid, selling back to Eskom? What is your insight here?
So not all schools are able to export energy to the grid. It's very, very specific on which municipality you're in. If you're in the city of Cape Town, it is possible to export power. If you're, say, in the Northern Cape, I think at Springbok, for example, I don't think it's possible. So it depends on where you are. Obviously, the downside of that is that obviously summer school holidays is when the solar plant is producing most energy, and it's probably when you're using the least amount of energy within the school. So when we do our energy audits, we take that into account, and we model in any units of energy you can export, and we'll get a rebate from. And if export is not possible, then that's just taken into account into the whole model. So we make sure that the system is not going to be overproducing power in the summertime by slightly downsizing the solar plant if necessary. Or by taking out the lost earnings from selling energy to the school is reflected in a slightly higher tariff if you're not able to export power.
Awesome. Okay. I think we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot of the questions that I can see that have come in, I think, in our discussions today. I think the one thing that I'm not maybe clear on, and this would be great if you could gain clarity on, is we hear that the Sun Exchange takes care of a lot of things. So be it insulate or funding, installation, maintenance, repairs, all of that. But what is the responsibility from the school side? So what can a school expect if they contact you and they want you to come and do an assessment? And what is the onus of the school that they need to take responsibility for?
So firstly, they just need to make sure that someone is appointed as like the champion of the project within the school that can motivate for the project to happen. Because obviously schools have school governing boards, and there are many people on those boards, and they rotate, and people have different perspectives and different points of view, or different levels of understanding of how solar energy works. So you need somebody within the school to be able to represent the project and communicate this to the school governing board to say, this is what's going on, this is the proposal, and get sign off from that school governing board, because we can't proceed with the project with the Department of Public Works or the Department of Education unless the school governing board have agreed to the project based on the information given to them and forecasts of savings, etc. So that's really kind of the only responsibility of the school, is to make sure that they can get motivation from the school governing board to promote, to support the project to happen, basically.
Awesome. And the rest is the job of Sun Exchange.
Yeah. Then we take that permission, and then we go to the NEC, and go to the Department of Public Works, and then also take the project through our platform.
Awesome. Okay, I love that. Okay, so I think lastly, if school is interested in finding out more, starting this journey, looking into that funded model that you guys have done. I've seen on many of your schools, and maybe this isn't something that's been asked, and maybe something that's not known about, but I see there's a benefactor organization that is linked to many of your projects. So what is that about? And then lastly, what is the next step for the schools?
So with each project that we host on Sun Exchange, we nominate a charity which allows people who are buying or earning income through the project to donate a portion of that income to a charity of choice. So in many of our schools, the school has a bursary fund which has been appointed as the recipient of the charity. But right now, our main charity that we're supporting is African Parks. So people earning income through empowering your school can now also be helping promote and maintain Africa's best treasures of wildlife and the natural environment. So not only are you now reducing energy costs, you're also enabling long-term donations to worthwhile charities. And I guess your final question is how next steps is just contact us. I'm sure that there's a poll on the screen here, so just click to be contacted by Sun Exchange, and we'll reach out to you, or simply visit our website and then follow the on-screen instructions on our contact us form for submitting information.
Awesome. Okay, good. I think that's us for today. I'm going to then greet Abe. Abe, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your insight. Also, thank you for your passion for renewable energy and for the education sector and bringing this together. It's exciting, and I look forward to all that's ahead with Sun Exchange and this journey that you're on with green energy.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Okay, so we are done for today then. This is the end. Thank you for bearing with us. We're a bit over time, and by a bit I mean a lot. And so I apologize for a bit of an extension today, but so many questions we want to answer. If we haven't answered all your questions, please feel free to email Abe or his team or Shando and their team. You're going to get all the information in an email that goes out after this. And just thank you so much. Friday session starts sharp at 11 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you there, and we're really going to explore in practical what some of these things have done for Woodridge School, what it has enabled on their campus, a different perspective altogether from what we've heard, the practicals of actually installing it. We're going to move over to usage of it, and we're also going to be looking at the benefit of taking a large-scale project like this for solar to tender for your school. So what would that look like, and what would the advantages of that be like? And we're going to hear from the ex-operations manager, Renee, and she's the ex-operation manager of St. Stithians, and she did also do their planning and plotting of their solar project that has in time been executed. So lots jam-packed for Friday to still look at, but thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you at the end of the week on Friday at 11 o'clock.